Good evening.
各位晚安。
My apologies that I'm not speaking the local language.
請原諒我唔能夠講中文。
I did live in Hong Kong for a number of years.
我的確喺香港居住過好多年，
Only 少少廣東話。
但只係識少少嘅廣東話。
I worked at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, 中文大學。
我喺香港中文大學工作過。
I was here for many years.
我喺度居住過好多年。
I had 2 children born here.
我有2個小朋友喺度出世。
My daughter could not stay away.
我個女唔想離開香港，
And she has come back to live in Hong Kong and to teach.
所以佢返嚟香港教書。
So tonight I'm going to talk about dinosaurs because I'm a scientist.
今晚想同大家講下關於恐龍呢個話題，因為我係一個科學家。
But I thought I'd just introduce myself a little bit and who I work for.
開始嘅時候，我想介紹下我自己同埋我所從事嘅工作。
And then we'll have fun with dinosaurs and I'll bring you up to speed with the latest information we have.
然後我哋就會開始恐龍呢個有趣嘅話題，同埋一啲關於恐龍最新嘅資料。
So I said I'm a scientist.
剛才我講過，我係一個科學家。
Okay, that's not me now, but in a few years' time.
冇錯，我而家唔係咁，不過可能幾年之後係咁。
And I was a scientist who travelled the world.
我係一個去到世界各地工作嘅科學家。
I spent 10 years in China.
有10年時間喺中國。
At least 2 years in Finland.
有至少2年喺芬蘭。
I worked in many parts of the world, whether they were tropical or arid or ice. I worked there.
我喺世界各地都有工作過，無論係熱帶地方或者係冰川。
And I was very interested in the planet.
我對呢個地球非常有興趣。
And its history.
亦都對佢嘅歷史都好有興趣。
And so I studied everywhere I went.
所以無論去到邊度，我都會去做研究。
I studied in Khotan.
我係曾經喺火炭做研究。
I was very interested in the water and the sediment that was flowing down into Tolo Harbour.
我對於喺吐露港流出嚟嘅河水，佢嘅沉積物都好有興趣。
I was very interested in South China Sea.
我對南中國海都好有興趣。
We did some drilling of the ocean floor.
我哋喺嗰度嘅海床做過一啲鑽探。
So on the left there you see the sediment or material we brought up from underneath the ocean floor in Hong Kong.
呢度有一啲樣本係我哋喺香港沿岸嘅一啲海床裏面抽取嘅沉積層。
And on the right-hand side, you see how we tried to understand the past of Hong Kong.
右邊嘅圖就係我哋點樣去嘗試理解香港過去嘅歷史。
After Hong Kong, I went to the Amazon.
離開香港之後，我去咗亞馬遜。
If you get a chance, it's a great place.
如果你有機會去嘅話，呢個係一個非常好嘅地方。
You can swim in the Amazon.
你可以喺亞馬遜河度游水。
The piranhas will not eat you.
食人魚唔會食咗你嘅。
You will eat them.
但你可以食咗佢哋。
Seriously, they taste beautiful.
認真咁講，佢嘅味道真係非常好。
I worked in Australia in some beautiful locations such as Fraser Island.
我亦都喺澳洲一啲好美麗嘅島嶼裏面工作過。
Which is one of the, it's a World Heritage Site, but a site of great history.
呢個係其中一個世界文化遺產嘅地方，裏面有好豐富嘅文化產業。
And I must tell you that up until this point, I was not a Christian in a church.
我想話俾你知，喺嗰個時候我一直喺度做研究，但係嗰陣時我仍未相信耶穌。
But my study of planet Earth and the history and the fossils convinced me that there was a God.
但當我對呢個地球不斷咁研究佢嘅歷史同埋佢嘅化石，研究嘅證據說服咗我，呢個世界上有一個神嘅存在。
So quite late in life, in my 50s, I became a Christian.
到咗50幾歲嘅時候，我成為咗基督徒。
And I decided to leave university.
嗰時我決定離開大學。
I was a professor at university.
我曾經係大學嘅教授。
But I decided I would really want to continue to teach, but I would love to teach Christians about the true history of this planet.
我真係好中意教學，但係後來我決定咗個教學嘅對象係基督徒。我希望教導基督徒有關地球真正嘅歷史。
And if you can see that, you will see that I've spoken on dinosaurs before.
如果大家睇一睇呢張相片，你會知道我都曾經係分享過關於恐龍呢個題目。
But who is CMI? Creation Ministries International.
CMI 到底係咩呢？國際創造事工又係咩事工嚟嘅？
We are a collection of top scientists from around the world.
我哋一班嚟自世界各地嘅頂尖科學家。
Most of the team have PhDs.
團隊裏面大部分嘅人都擁有博士學位。
They have been research directors or professors in universities.
有啲曾經係大學嘅教授，係研究團隊嘅總監。
And we are in a number of countries at the moment.
我哋而家分佈喺世界各地。
In Australia, we have at least 16 speakers travelling the country.
喺澳洲，我哋至少有16位講員周圍去分享。
As you see from that image, we already translate into 40 different languages.
從呢度你可以睇到，我哋網上嘅文章已經被翻譯成40多種語言。
And our goal is to increase the amount of Chinese available, Chinese articles, Chinese books available to you.
我哋而家嘅目標係增加中文文章嘅數量，希望更多嘅文章同書籍可以被翻譯成為中文。
So we have launched our website to have a Chinese page on it.
所以我哋嘅網站亦都為一啲專閱讀中文嘅人而設咗一個中文嘅版面。
We have translated over 100 articles for you to read.
我哋已經有超過100多篇嘅文章被翻譯成為中文。
In Australia, we developed the website.
澳洲嘅部門主要負責網站。
In Canada, they produce TV programs.
加拿大主要負責電視節目。
In the United States, they do the books.
美國就主要負責出版圖書。
So you can see we work together around the world.
所以睇到我哋唔同嘅部門喺世界各地一齊合作。
But that's our website in English.
呢個係我哋英文嘅網站。
That is how you can access the website.
呢度有我哋嘅網址。
And there is no charge. You can access the website anytime, any part of it.
而且完全係免費嘅，你隨時隨地都可以睇我哋嘅文章。
Up in the top right, you'll see a search engine.
喺右上角你可以睇到一個搜尋引擎。
And it might surprise you to know that we have already put 10,000 articles for you on that website.
可能令你好驚訝，我哋已經有超過1萬多篇嘅文章已經擺咗喺網站上面。
Now, unfortunately, most of them are in English.
但好遺憾，大部分都仍然係英文嘅。
But if you particularly like one, let me know and we will translate it.
如果你對某一篇特別有興趣，可以話俾我哋知，我哋會翻譯。
We are very serious about that.
我哋好認真咁講嘅。
But let's talk about dinosaurs.
我哋而家講一講恐龍啦。
Let's have some fun.
我哋開始有趣嘅部分啦。
And the first thing I want to talk about is what do you know about dinosaurs? Because I know where you get that information from. You get it from movies.
首先，我想知道大家對恐龍有幾多嘅了解。相信你哋對恐龍嘅認識，大部分都係嚟自電影嘅。
Even when I was young, I loved dinosaur movies.
就算我年輕嘅時候，我都好中意睇恐龍嘅電影嘅。
And the most common ones today, of course, are Jurassic Park.
現今最普遍嘅可能係侏羅紀公園、侏羅紀世界。
Put your hand up if you've seen one of those movies.
你哋當中如果有睇過嘅，請舉手。
The one thing it does affect the way we think about dinosaurs.
呢啲電影嘅內容的確影響緊我哋對恐龍嘅認識。
So I'm going to tell you the truth about these movies.
而家想話俾你知一啲真相。
And I'm sorry if I break your heart.
對唔住啊，如果令到你失望嘅話。
First point is that the movies suggest that the Jurassic was crowded with dinosaurs everywhere.
第一點，我哋喺電影裏面睇到侏羅紀時代，周圍都係好多嘅恐龍嘅。
The first thing that's wrong about that is Jurassic.
第一個錯誤就係侏羅紀。
T-Rexes didn't live in the Jurassic.
霸王龍並唔係生活喺侏羅紀喎。
They lived in the Cretaceous.
佢哋生活喺白堊紀。
But the movie thought Cretaceous Park, no, it doesn't sound good.
但係如果呢個電影叫做白堊紀公園，可能唔係咁好聽啦。
We'll call it Jurassic Park.
所以我哋先至叫佢做侏羅紀公園。
So the next time somebody says to you, I've seen Jurassic Park, you say, no, you saw Cretaceous Park.
所以下次如果有人同你講我睇完侏羅紀公園，你又同佢講唔係啊，你睇嗰個叫做白堊紀公園先啱啊。
But you remember the movie? The dinosaurs were everywhere.
如果你記得嗰套戲裡面嘅畫面，周圍都係恐龍喎。
So let's look at what we do know about dinosaurs.
不如我哋睇下我哋對恐龍有啲咩實際嘅認識。
This is a common dinosaur, this particular one.
呢個都係一個好典型，我哋會成日見到嘅恐龍。
To feed, this dinosaur ate almost anything green, herbs, plants, ferns. It was a dinosaur that ate plants and ate almost any plant. How do we know that? Because we found the plants in its stomach.
呢隻恐龍基本上咩都食，任何綠色嘅植物佢哋都好中意食。我哋點樣知道？因為我哋喺佢哋嘅胃裏面發現咗呢一啲嘅嘢。
We also know from the size of its stomach and the type of food it had that it would need at least 2 to 4 square kilometres for one of them.
而從佢哋嘅胃嘅大小同埋佢進食嘅種類嘅多少嚟判斷呢啲恐龍，至少可能需要2到4平方公里嘅植物嚟到做食物。
And it would also prefer to be in swamplands like many dinosaurs.
而且佢同大多數嘅恐龍都一樣，喜歡生活喺沼澤同濕地。
So 2 of them together, husband and wife, would need about 8 square kilometres.
如果2隻咁大嘅恐龍一公一乸，就可能需要8平方公里啦。
So the question you're all asking is, how many T-Rexes are there?
可能大家都會問一個問題，到底有幾多隻霸王龍？
The answer, calculated by the scientists, is that a T-Rex would need at least 500 square kilometres.
根據科學家嘅研究，發現一隻霸王龍需要至少佔地500平方公里。
So 2 of them would need about 1,000 square kilometres.
所以2隻霸王龍就要1000平方公里啊。
So your opportunity to see one in a world without cars and aeroplanes is quite rare.
所以你要喺一個冇飛機冇汽車嘅世界裏面揾到呢個霸王龍係一個非常困難嘅事情嚟嘅。
And I'll talk about T-Rex more in a moment.
稍後嘅時間我會講多一啲關於霸王龍。
This is a photograph of a countryside.
呢個係一個郊區嘅照片
has been put up on the net, on the web, by a fossil expert.
係一位化石專家喺網上公佈嘅一張郊區嘅照片嚟嘅。
It's a site where there are bears and wolves.
呢個地方又有狼又有熊。
Do you see any?
你見唔見到呢？
No.
見唔到啊。
What they are saying is if this was a site of the Cretaceous, it's what you would see.
佢哋話如果呢一個係一張白堊紀時期嘅照片，你睇到嘅情況都會係咁嘅樣。
The dinosaurs needed such a large area, the chance of you seeing them is very low.
因為每一隻恐龍所要佔嘅面積實在太大啦，冇乜機會你可以喺視野範圍裡面見到恐龍嘅。
So I'm sorry to disappoint you.
好抱歉，咁嘅真相令你失望。
The second thing the movies tell us is that there are many types of dinosaurs.
電影俾我哋第二個印象就係有好多品種嘅恐龍嘅存在。
Here's one picture, or 3 pictures, of 3 different dinosaurs.
呢度有3張3種恐龍嘅圖片
that are in fact one dinosaur.
但事實呢3種恐龍其實都係同一種。
Because dinosaurs, like many reptiles, changed their facial structures and their body structures as they grow older.
因為恐龍同好多爬行動物一樣，隨住佢哋成長，佢哋嘅外表同外觀都會發生變化。
So you're seeing on the left the young and on the right the old. We made a mistake thinking there were 3 different ones. They are the one dinosaur.
所以喺左邊嘅係比較年輕嘅時候，右邊就係佢最老嘅時候。呢3種其實係同一個品種。我哋咧曾經誤以為佢哋係3種唔同嘅恐龍。
Ceratopsia.
呢個係角龍。
There are at least 16 dinosaurs believed to exist like this.
有人至少認為有16種咁樣嘅恐龍存在。
But what the scientists have now shown us is that there are only 2.
但係科學家嘅發現只係得2種。
Because when you look at that image,
如果你睇一睇呢張圖片嘅時候，
you will see here there are no horns.
你會睇到呢度冇角嘅。
Here there are some.
呢度有少少角。
Here there are 3.
呢度有3個角。
It simply reflects how they found them.
呢個只不過係反映佢被發現嘅時候嗰個樣，
and what age of life they were.
或者係佢生得幾大啦。
So how many dinosaur types were there?
咁到底我哋有幾多種呢？
The scientists would like to publish that there are 700 to 1,000 types.
科學家提出可能有700到1000多種。
However, we know and suspect there are probably only about 300.
但係而家我哋嚟睇，大概只係有300種。
But in reality, we can only confirm 50.
但係實際能夠確認嘅只有50種，
with total solid evidence.
有確實證據嘅只有50種。
When you think about what about animals and birds, we have tens of thousands of mammals.
可能你會想像單計普通嘅動物，可能就已經有成千上萬種喎。
And thousands or tens of thousands of bird species as well.
但係鳥類，我哋已經有成千上萬種喎。
So now we find that they are not only few, they are also very few types of dinosaur.
但係而家我哋發現嘅恐龍數目唔單止係比較少，甚至乎佢哋嘅種類都係更加少。
But the movie tried to make the dinosaurs special.
但電影好想令佢變得好特別。
If you watched the scene in the movie where the four-wheel drive was running away from the T-Rex it was chasing,
如果你睇過呢套戲，你會見到一架越野車逃避呢個霸王龍嘅追捕。
if you were like me, you would have looked at the speedometer on the car.
如果你好似我咁，你應該會去睇一睇嗰個車嘅咪錶嘅速度。
And it says the car was doing 80 kilometers per hour
嗰度講到架車大概有80公里咁快咁樣離開，
and in great danger from the T-Rex.
佢喺一個非常危險裏面，俾個霸王龍追到好近啊！
But we have good bones of the T-Rex, and we can look at its bone structure, its muscle structure, and we can calculate its speed.
但係當我哋研究一啲比較完整嘅霸王龍嘅骨頭嘅時候，喺佢骨頭嘅結構裏面可以計算到佢奔跑嘅速度。
And the scientists have discovered the fastest it could ever run is 29 kilometers per hour.
科學家發現佢哋最快嘅速度都不過係每小時29公里。
But very good runners, human runners, will run 1/3 faster than a T-Rex.
喺人類裏面跑得比較快嗰啲嘅選手，比霸王龍跑得快超過1/3嘅速度。
So if you were wandering around 1,000 square kilometers,
如果你喺1000平方公里嘅平原上面行走，
and you were lucky enough to meet a T-Rex,
如果你又好好彩咁樣俾你遇到一個霸王龍，
what would you do?
你會點做呢？
Run.
跑，
It's that simple.
好簡單，
You don't need a four-wheel drive.
你唔需要開車嚟到走，
Or just run faster than the person next to you.
或者你只係比你旁邊嗰個跑快少少，咁樣已經足夠。
Another favourite of mine was the Velociraptor.
另一樣我好中意嘅恐龍就係呢個速龍。
Now that was the one in the movie that was quite tall.
喺電影裏面你見到佢好高嘅，
There were a few of them would gather and they had eggs.
有幾隻一齊仲要生蛋喎，
And they could run fast and they were quite violent.
並且佢哋跑得好快同埋好兇猛嘅。
And the humans were very afraid of them in the movies.
而啲人呢係好驚呢隻恐龍嘅電影裏面。
Now there are many types of raptors,
呢種恐龍其實有好多種類，
but the Velociraptor was the name they used.
但係佢哋叫做速龍嘅嗰一隻龍。
But the dinosaur you saw that was in the movie was not a Velociraptor.
但係你喺個電影裏面見到嘅並唔係真正嘅速龍，
Because a Velociraptor is the size of a duck.
因為一個真正嘅速龍其實就好似一隻鴨仔咁嘅大細嘅啫，
And it has some claws on its feet.
同埋佢嘅腳掌上面有一啲嘅尖瓜嘅。
So if a Velociraptor came running at you,
所以如果見到好多速龍跑向你，你會點做啊？
it's a duck.
只係一隻鴨，
That's all it is.
只不過係一隻鴨。
So sorry to break your ideas about how beautiful these dinosaurs and how tough they are.
好抱歉打破咗大家對恐龍嘅奇妙嘅幻想。
But the point is, the movies told us there were many species, many numbers, and they were very capable.
但係依類電影話俾我哋知道，恐龍嘅數目唔單止係好多，種類都好多，而且係非常兇猛嘅。
In reality, there were very few. They were uncommon. They were largely in the swamps, and so we as humans would rarely have seen them.
但係實際上嚟講，恐龍嘅數量又係好少嘅，又唔常見，同埋佢哋經常出沒嘅地方係沼澤同埋濕地，所以好少人係可以預見到佢哋嘅。
And we would know how to handle them if we did see them.
假如你真係見到恐龍，其實你都會知道應該點樣應付佢哋。
Just like we know how to handle lions and elephants.
就好似我哋點樣面對獅子同老虎一樣。
Because I was in Africa and did some work in a national park, let me tell you about a lion.
因為我曾經喺南非嘅國家公園裏面遇過一隻獅子。
If there is a lion sitting there,
若果有一隻獅子坐喺嗰度
and you come out,
你想行出去嘅話
walk past it.
經過佢。
Lions attack those that run away.
獅子只係會追趕嗰啲逃跑嘅動物嘅。
I have been this close to a lion.
我就係曾經咁近啊，同一隻獅子。
Lions think about you when you come at them.
如果你係向住一隻獅子行過去，佢會留意到你嘅。
If they don't see you being nervous or frightened and you walk to them, they ignore you.
若果佢見到你嘅時候，你一啲都唔緊張，仲喺佢身邊行過呢，佢係唔會理你嘅。
I was also sitting in a car when an elephant charged the car, a big male elephant.
當年我都曾經坐過一架車上面，亦都遇過一隻非常兇猛嘅大象向住架車衝埋嚟。
But the driver of the car was very clever.
但係嗰個司機係非常聰明嘅。
He said, sit still.
佢就話你坐穩就得噶啦。
And this elephant just kept coming at me.
嗰隻大象就衝向我。
He was 3 times my size.
佢係我身高嘅3倍。
But just when he was about to tread on me,
但係當佢差唔多掂到我嘅時候，
this man who was the driver of a car
嗰個司機呢
pushed the accelerator.
佢又踩油啦。
And the accelerator, he made the sound, "Arrgh."
然之後嗰個車就發出啲嘅怪聲。
And the elephant just went,
然之後個獅子就大叫一聲就跑走啦。
and ran past me.
然之後喺我身邊走咗。
You see, we're clever.
你睇到人好醒。
We know how to handle these beasts.
我哋知道點樣面對呢啲猛獸。
We would have done the same with dinosaurs.
我哋都會對恐龍都一樣係咁。
I'm going to talk to you more about that in a moment because you, as a people, actually raised them as pets.
稍後會再講多一啲，因為你哋中國人其實就係曾經將恐龍當成寵物咁樣去養。
So I hope I have corrected your movie thinking.
我希望我已經幫你糾正咗嗰啲錯誤嘅電影思維。
I'm going to now ask, does the Bible talk about dinosaurs?
而家我想跳到一個問題，到底聖經有冇記載恐龍？
It's a question many people get asked.
呢個係好多人都問過嘅一個問題。
In fact, children will say, my dad said the Bible isn't true because it doesn't talk about dinosaurs.
甚至有小朋友會話：我爸爸講嘅聖經唔係真嘅，因為聖經裏面冇提到恐龍。
Why doesn't it talk about dinosaurs?
點解聖經裏面冇提到恐龍呢？
The answer is that certainly for the English Bible, it was translated in the year roughly about 1600.
答案係以英文聖經為例，最早嘅英文聖經係喺1611年嘅時候翻譯。
Why doesn't it mention dinosaurs?
點解冇提到恐龍？
Because we didn't invent the word dinosaurs.
因為嗰陣時都未發明恐龍呢個字，直到1841年，恐龍呢個字先至出現。
Because that's an English word.
呢個英文字唔係希伯來字。
So, does the Bible talk about dinosaurs? Yes, it does.
所以到底聖經有冇提到恐龍咁嘅動物呢？係有嘅，
Particularly in Job 40.
特別喺約伯記40章。
And I won't read through all of that, but if you look at Job 40, it is when the Lord is speaking to Job and challenging him.
而家我唔想詳細咁讀當中嘅經文，但喺約伯記40章裏面係神同約伯對話，去到挑戰佢。
The Lord talks to Job about, do you understand your own mind? Do you understand the weather?
主同約伯講：你明唔明白自己嘅思想？你明唔明白氣候嘅成因呢？
The Lord challenges Job to understand the most simplest things.
主去到挑戰約伯，想知道佢到底明唔明白嗰啲最簡單嘅問題。
And then the Lord says to look at this particular creature.
然後神就話：你睇一睇呢個動物。
And describes the creature as strong and powerful and a great piece of creation.
然後主就形容呢個動物，佢係好強壯嘅，係被造嘅動物裏面第一位嘅嗰一種。
Many people like to think of that as an elephant or a rhinoceros.
好多人會以為呢個係一個大象或者犀牛。
But the description is much more of a dinosaur. Very clearly a description of a dinosaur.
但係一睇呢個描述，其實更加符合嘅動物應該就係恐龍。
So the Lord at this stage was being quite formal with Job. Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe? I don't think he would have then made up a joke about a dinosaur. He really meant, do you?
之前主咧係好嚴肅咁樣問約伯：你到底相唔相信啊？你係唔係信真係有㗎？所以之前所講嘅嘢都係一啲好嚴肅嘅問題。所以講到恐龍嘅時候，神唔係開緊玩笑啊，佢係真係問佢信唔信真係有啊。
So, did the dinosaurs get on the ark?
所以到底恐龍有冇上過方舟？
On Noah's Ark?
有冇上過挪亞方舟？
Maybe they didn't want to.
或者佢哋唔想上去？
They just didn't want to wait in long lines.
可能佢哋唔想排咁長嘅隊。
There are many jokes like that, actually.
其實有好多類似嘅笑話嘅。
Many said you could not fit a dinosaur on the ark. They're too big.
好多人話恐龍實在太大啦，所以根本方舟擺佢唔落。
What makes you think that Noah took everything that was big?
係啲乜嘢令你覺得挪亞會將最大嘅動物擺上方舟呢？
If I wanted to have a big dinosaur after the flood, I would take on a young one.
如果我想喺洪水之後養一隻好大嘅恐龍，我會帶一隻細嘅。
Two young ones.
兩隻細嘅。
Let them grow while they are on the ark.
等佢哋上咗方舟先慢慢長大。
In fact, we know from that diagram the growth rate of the dinosaurs.
呢個圖表睇到恐龍嗰個嘅成長嘅速度。
So this particular dinosaur was a big one, 25 tons.
呢種係一種大嘅恐龍，有25噸重。
That's a bit big to get on the ark, isn't it?
呢隻恐龍上方舟嘅話實在太大啦。
But suppose you took it when it was 4 years old.
但係如果你帶一隻4歲嘅恐龍，
You're on the ark for 1 year.
喺方舟養1年，
So it comes off the ark when it's 5.
所以佢落方舟嘅時候5歲。
Do you see what I'm saying?
你明嗎？係好容易嘅啫。
Same with elephants. I wouldn't have taken on a big elephant.
就好似大象咁樣，我哋肯定唔會帶兩隻好大嘅。
He would charge you, and if you didn't have a 4-wheel drive with a pedal, you'd be in trouble.
佢哋會攻擊你，如果你冇4驅車，你就麻煩啦。
There have been calculations done of the ark. It could handle easily all of the kinds of animals on this planet.
而且有人對方舟做咗研究，佢哋有好足夠嘅空間去容納世上所有各種嘅動物嘅。
Other evidence that the dinosaurs were on the ark is from our own history and our own literature and our own culture.
我哋仲有其他證據證明恐龍曾經上過方舟，就係從我哋嘅歷史、我哋自己嘅文化同埋一啲嘅文獻上面，我哋都可以睇得到。
So no matter where I went in the world, I saw evidence of dinosaurs.
所以無論我去到邊度，我喺世界各地都睇到恐龍嘅證據。
And so this particular image was made in 1496.
呢幅係1496年
in England.
喺英國。
They are the perfect replicas of 2 dinosaurs.
呢幅圖好完美咁代表咗兩種嘅恐龍。
There is Saint George, who many of you know is famous for killing dragons.
大家肯定都聽過呢個英雄，佢係殺龍而出名嘅聖佐治。
In the Middle East, the Mesopotamia, the Middle East, they have cylinders with dragons drawn on them.
喺古代中東嘅地區，我哋都見到有啲圓柱嘅印模，上面咧嘅圖案都係有呢個恐龍嘅存在。
And it matches a fossil perfectly that we know.
呢個亦都同我哋今日所知道嘅一啲嘅恐龍嘅化石係非常吻合嘅。
If we go to Cambodia, we can see again dinosaurs.
當你去到柬埔寨，你亦都可以見到恐龍。
And of course, if we look here at home, there is so much discussion on dinosaurs.
當我哋睇返我哋中國嘅文化，亦都有好多關於恐龍嘅描述嘅。
There are many sayings, for example, where you have dinosaurs in the statement, like a coiling dragon and a couching tiger.
有好多嘅文字嘅描述都係關於龍呢種嘅動物，例如卧虎藏龍啊、龍潭虎穴啊。
One of the things I absolutely love is the calendar, where you have 12 animals, 11 of them are still around, and the other one is the dinosaur or a dragon.
我特別中意嘅係中國嘅12生肖裏面有提到有11種都係真實嘅動物，而只有一種係唔存在，就係龍啦。
I found that very strong evidence, because why would you design a calendar with something that didn't exist when the other 11 did?
我覺得呢個係一個非常有力嘅證據， 因為設計12生肖嘅人，佢揀11種係真實嘅動物，而最後揀一種唔存在嘅，咁樣係好唔合理嘅。
You also carved the dinosaur or dragons. You're particularly interested in the dragons in various vessels.
你哋中國人都曾經喺唔同嘅器皿上面雕刻過龍。
You also wrote about dragons.
而且中國嘅文獻裏面亦都有記載過。
And in fact, you actually wrote that dragons were reared. In other words, you owned them.
喺左傳裏面亦都有記載，有人養龍嘅，而且有人將啲龍帶返屋企去養，佢哋擁有佢。
And you had family names that said you were a dragon ruler or a dragon rearer.
一啲家族嘅姓氏，甚至描述佢哋係養龍嘅人，有一啲呢就係管理龍嘅。
Your literature has lots of dragons. It is a creature of the water. Guess what? The scientists now agree with you. Most dragons were a creature of a water, a swamp.
你哋嘅文獻裏面亦都好多次記載到龍，特別係提到龍係一種喺水裏面生活嘅動物。而家嘅科學家都的確證實你哋係啱嘅，佢哋的確生活喺濕地裏面。
So the question has to be asked, if a culture says it rears and knows all about it and describes it so perfectly, then of course it was on the ark.
當然啦，呢個問題亦都好明顯咁指出，如果有一種文化、一種文明對龍有咁多嘅描述，提到呢種龍係被養嘅，記載佢喺水裏面生活嘅，咁清楚嘅記載，我哋好肯定呢種動物係有上到方舟嘅。
Even in Australia, where I come from, dinosaurs there ate people.
就連喺澳洲嘅家鄉裏面都有記載龍，呢啲龍係會食人嘅。
This is an Aboriginal people very upset in a swamp with a dinosaur.
呢個圖片記載一啲澳洲當地嘅土著，佢哋感到好憤怒，因為恐龍食咗佢哋嘅族人啊。
So now we have a difficult question. Where did they go?
而家我哋就一個難題啦，咁到底啲恐龍最後去咗邊度呢？
Maybe they had some bad habits.
有可能佢哋有一啲嘅壞習慣。
But let me explain to you how they did in fact disappear.
等我同大家解釋一下佢哋係點樣消失嘅啦。
And you have seen these images because while they are fish, they are also dinosaur. It doesn't matter what it is.
大家可能都睇過呢啲嘅圖片，無論係魚定係恐龍，佢哋都面對呢一個嘅過程。
So the majority of dinosaurs, first of all, went through the flood.
大部分嘅恐龍首先係遇見一次大洪水。
And they became fossils.
然後佢哋變成化石。
When we study those fossils, we find something very interesting.
當我哋研究呢啲化石嘅時候，我哋發現一個好有趣嘅現象。
The fossils that disappeared during the flood drowned.
呢啲喺洪水裏面出現嘅化石，呢啲動物好似係被淹死嘅喎。
How can we tell? Because reptiles throw their heads back and birds do the same. When they drown,They drown with their heads back.
我哋點知道佢係被淹死嘅呢？因為無論係爬蟲定係鳥類，如果佢哋係被水淹死嘅話，佢哋個頭係會向後仰起。
We keep finding them, so many of them like this, with their heads back that they drowned. If they died on land, they would not have their heads back.
我哋經常咁發現呢啲嘅化石，佢哋嘅動物嘅頭係向後昂起嚟嘅。如果佢哋喺旱地上面死亡嘅話，佢哋嘅頭係唔應該咁樣向後昂起嚟嘅。
And there's more proof that they drowned.
我哋發現更多證據，佢哋係被淹死嘅。
They are found next to fossil fish.
例如佢哋係同魚嘅化石埋埋一齊。
But where did the dinosaurs that were on the ark go?
但係上咗方舟嘅恐龍，最後嘅結果又係點樣呢？
The answer has to come back to where did many species on the ark go?
而答案就係同好多其他上咗方舟嘅動物都一樣係咁樣嘅結局。
Every culture, every country realizes that of its own species, it has lost many.
每一個國家佢哋都會發現佢哋本國嘅動物嘅品種係不斷咁減少。
And two types of species that died easily.
有兩種嘅物種係非常容易咁樣死咗或者滅絕嘅。
Were small mammals that could not run away.
就係好細小嗰啲嘅哺乳類動物，因為佢哋走唔甩啊。
And large reptiles that cannot run away.
另外就係嗰啲好大嘅動物，因為佢哋都走唔到。
Because you can run 30% faster.
因為人嘅跑步嘅速度係比恐龍快1/3。
So the movie was wrong that the dinosaurs chased us, the reason they're not here today is we chase them.
電影講到恐龍追趕人類其實係唔啱嘅，因為恐龍最後點解滅絕係人類去追殺佢哋。
They were low in numbers. They needed very protected ecosystems.
恐龍本來嘅數量就好少，佢哋需要生活喺一個特別嘅生態環境裏面去被保護嘅。
But we occupied the planet.
最後佔據地球大部分土地嘅就係人類啦。
And so over those years we hear many stories that we killed dragons and dinosaurs.
過往我聽過好多嘅故事係關於人類到底係點樣殺死一啲龍嘅。
So they're like other species that we have lost.
就好似其他嗰啲嘅物種一樣，都係俾人類殺死同滅絕。
Are the fossils of dinosaurs found everywhere on the planet?
恐龍嘅化石真係喺世界各地都被發現？
This is an interesting one. It's not a dinosaur, but 80 whales were found in Chile in South America in the desert.
呢個係一個好有趣嘅現象，雖然唔係關於恐龍嘅，但係喺智利南美嘅沙漠裏面，我哋咧發現咗80條鯨魚喎。
So there's one of them, and they were all close to each other.
佢哋都係聚埋一齊嘅，呢個係其中嘅一條。
And you can see they were quite high.
你可以睇到佢哋被埋葬嘅地方嘅海拔係比較高嘅。
Do we find dinosaurs fossils in the desert? Yes.
我哋有冇喺沙漠裏面發現恐龍嘅化石？確實係有。
We find fossils in the mountains.
我哋甚至喺高山裏面都發現過化石。
Mount Everest, the tallest in the world, has marine fossils at the top, but other fossils down below.
喺喜馬拉雅山嘅山頂裏面，我哋揾到海洋嘅生物化石。喺山腳亦都發現其他物種嘅化石。
In fact, in the Grand Canyon we see fossils, dinosaur fossils.
事實上喺美國嘅大峽谷，我哋都發現化石，亦都有恐龍嘅化石。
And there was a period when people were searching so much for dinosaur fossils that they threw away the mammal and the bird fossils.
有一個時期，人類好瘋狂咁發掘恐龍嘅化石，甚至佢將一啲哺乳類動物同埋其他動物嘅化石掉咗佢，唔要。
That's why the movie Jurassic Park thinks there was only dinosaurs there.
所以點解侏羅紀嘅電影裏面淨係會有恐龍嘅出現？
But in fact, in paleontology, we know that there were also birds and mammals.
但係事實喺古生物學上面指出，唔單止有恐龍，仲有其他鳥類同埋哺乳類動物。
And the the birds that are fossilized with the dinosaurs, surprisingly, are mainly swamp birds.
同恐龍一同石化嘅呢啲嘅鳥類，好奇怪，大部分都係喺濕地裏面生活嘅鳥類。
So when your teacher tells you, or a friend tells you that birds evolved from dinosaurs,
若果你嘅老師或者你嘅朋友同你講恐龍同鳥類進化有關嘅話，
that is simply not true.
呢個根本就唔係事實。
We have many fossils of birds with the dinosaurs.
我哋發現好多同恐龍一齊被石化嘅鳥類。
So the next question with fossils then, particularly dinosaur fossils,
下一個關於化石嘅問題，特別係關於恐龍嘅化石嘅。
can floods create fossils? Or was it only the one flood that created fossils?
一般嘅洪水就能夠造成化石，定係由一次大洪水做出嚟呢？
Because many scientists tell me floods can create fossils.
好多科學家同我講，一般嘅洪水就能夠做到化石。
But as you'll see from this diagram here,
當你觀察呢個圖片嘅時候，
the thing that is required for fossils is they must be buried fast and they must be buried deep.
但係化石形成嘅條件之一就係佢必須係快速嘅埋藏，並且係好深嘅。
Now, you know that I traveled the world.
大家都知道我係一個環遊世界嘅科學家。
I went down the Yangtze, the Amazon, all around the world. I went to different rivers.
我去過世界各地好多嘅河流，亦都去過亞馬遜河。
And I studied how much dirt or sediment was going down those rivers.
亦都研究過嗰啲嘅河流可以沖積幾多嘅沉積物。
And the question I always had, and which helped me become a Christian, is how do you bury a dinosaur?
我一直有一個疑問，就係後來都因為呢個問題，我成為咗基督徒，就係到底我哋點樣先可以埋藏一隻恐龍呢？
To fossilize a dinosaur, you need to bury them many meters deep.
因為若果要做成一個恐龍嘅化石，你需要將佢埋得好深。
But my question was, I have studied soil and sediment all around the world, and I cannot find meters being deposited at once over very large areas.
雖然我研究世界各地嘅沉積同埋泥土沖積作用，但我未曾揾到一次係咁大量嘅泥土可以足以將一個嘅恐龍埋藏得咁深嘅現象係揾唔到。
In fact, people say maybe a tsunami fossilized the dinosaurs.
甚至有人提出會唔會係一次嘅海嘯將死咗嘅恐龍石化呢？
But we as scientists go into the tsunami area once the humanitarian aid has gone through.
我哋呢啲科學家都會喺救災隊離開之後進入嗰啲海嘯嘅地區。
And we measure the amount of sediment, and it's 10 centimetres maximum in the world's largest tsunamis.
我哋測量過一次大海嘯帶嚟嘅沉積物，全球最大嘅海嘯都只不過係帶嚟10厘米沉積物。
So the message I'm trying to get across to you is this.
我想同大家分享嘅重點其實就係
A tsunami will bring 10 centimetres.
就算一個海嘯都只不過係帶嚟10厘米嘅沉積物。
Will that fossilise a T-Rex?
咁樣係咪可以將一個霸王龍石化呢？
No.
唔可能。
How much do we need to fossilise?
我哋需要幾多先至可以石化到？
Well, the latest research has just come out of the university down the road from me.
喺我屋企附近嘅一間大學，佢哋最近發表嘅研究裏面提到
They put small infant crocodiles or alligators and they buried them in 20 centimetres of soil and sediment.
佢哋攞咗一啲幼小嘅鱷魚，將佢埋藏喺20厘米深嘅沉積物下面。
But the 20 centimetres did not hold them in position. They came out, floated to the surface, expanded, bloated, and then were destroyed.
但係依20厘米嘅沉積物唔足夠將嗰個鱷魚仔壓住唔喐喎，後來佢就浮翻上水，再發脹爆開，再沉底。
So you can see what I'm saying here. We need a lot of sediment to fossilise a dinosaur.
從呢一點我哋可以知道，形成恐龍嘅化石係需要特別大量嘅沉積物。
The scientists also like to tell us that most dinosaurs are fossilised next to rivers.
好多科學家亦都同我哋講，呢啲恐龍化石嘅石化作用大部分都發生喺河流嘅附近。
And the reason for that, of course, is that they believe that a lot of dirt and sediment comes down a river.
佢哋咁樣講係因為佢哋相信河流充斥住大量嘅沉積物。
And you know that by your looking at a river, when it's flooding, it's often brown.
你知道係因為當你喺河水泛濫嘅時候，留意啲河水嘅時候，佢哋一般都係黃色嘅。
So did that fossilise the dinosaurs? They drowned in a river?
但係問題係咁樣係咪就足以將一隻淹死嘅恐龍去到石化呢？
The answer is no.
答案係唔可能嘅。
The best rates of building a floodplain or depositing in a river environment are only about 3 centimetres on average.
呢個最好嘅河流嘅沉積作用，亦都只不過係每年3.2厘米。
The best record internationally for a large area is 10 centimetres.
喺我哋所知道最大面積最好嘅沉積作用嘅記錄，都只不過10厘米。
So we could not even have fossilised Velociraptor, the duck.
可能連我哋頭先提到好似一隻鴨咁嘅大細嘅速龍，佢都唔足夠嘅沉積物幫佢石化。
We could have heated the water and cooked him.
可能我哋要將佢用水煲熱再煮熟。
So the question becomes, how did the fossils be created?
所以而家嘅問題就係，到底呢啲嘅化石係點樣形成嘅？
But before I answer that question, I'm going to ask one more.
喺我答呢個問題之前，我想問多一次大家一個問題。
Were the sedimentary rocks, all these rocks that look straight lines, they're from rivers and lakes, were they all created at once?
到底呢啲睇起嚟好水平嘅沉積物，佢哋係唔係一次就咁樣被造成嘅呢？
And as I travelled around the world, no matter where I went, I kept seeing the same thing.
當我去到世界各地嘅時候，無論去到邊度，我都睇到一樣嘅景觀。
Now, that's a person there.
呢度有一個人，
It is not me.
佢唔係我。
I understand enough about rocks
我對岩石非常了解，
to know that that piece could easily fall down.
我知道呢嚿石好容易會跌落嚟。
I will be honest with you, I will never walk out there.
我唔能夠唔承認，我絕對唔會企喺呢個咁嘅位置。
And I have been invited into China to some of your walkways in the mountain slopes, and I am not going.
我曾經被邀請去到中國裏面去睇一啲嘅索道，但係我絕對唔會去嗰啲地方。
But the rocks are still flat, lying like this.
大家可以睇到呢度嘅岩層係好平坦，一層一層。
No matter where I went in the world, the rocks are flat if they are coming from sediment.
無論我去到世界各地任何嘅地方，只要佢係沉積岩，佢哋都係水平嘅。
But just notice one other thing. The surface is not flat.
但係呢度有另一個現象，佢嘅表面唔係平坦嘅喎。
There's another example there.
呢個係另一個例子。
The surface is very irregular.
表面嗰層係凹凸不平嘅。
But you will see flat lines.
但下面全部都係水平嘅沉積線。
Another one down here.
呢度又係。
So there's a very interesting question here. How are all these lines so flat, so deep, so many, so far around the world?
呢個係一個有趣嘅問題，到底點解呢啲線係咁平，又埋得咁深，而喺世界各地裏面又咁多？
Even in the Grand Canyon, you will see big variety in erosion, landslides, all those sorts of things.
喺美國嘅大峽谷裏面，你都睇到各樣嘅侵蝕作用同埋呢啲嘅地質活動。
But the rock is still flat.
但係個岩層仍然係非常嘅平整嘅。
And the scientist tried to tell me, as another scientist, that between that rock and that rock there's 10 million years and 20 million years here.
科學家話俾我哋知道，呢一層同呢一層之間有1000萬年，而嗰一層同嗰一層之間有2000萬年。
So I'm going to make a very important point for you.
有一個好重要嘅一點我要提到。
Are you telling me, or are the scientists telling me rather, that nothing happened on this world for 10 million and 20 million years?
咁樣係咪講呢個地球上面曾經呢1000萬年同埋嗰2000萬年都冇發生過任何地質嘅活動呢？
That erosion down there is because there is a river today.
下面嘅侵蝕作用係由下面嘅河流造成嘅。
There were no rivers for 10 million and 20 million years.
咁咪講呢1000萬年同埋嗰2000萬年都係冇任何嘅河流。
You see landslides may occur here.
你可以喺呢度睇到山泥傾瀉。
For 10 million and 20 million years, there were no landslides.
呢1000萬年同嗰2000萬年都冇發生過山泥傾瀉。
Our planet is active. It's always eroding, depositing, and changing.
但我哋嘅地球係活躍嘅，佢一路都發生各種各樣嘅侵蝕同埋山泥傾瀉嘅活動。
But if we look at the history of the planet, we don't see it.
但如果我哋從沉積岩嚟到睇地球嘅歷史，我哋睇唔到呢啲嘢。
If you believe that's millions of years old, which is what the scientists claim the Grand Canyon is, then what you're saying is nothing happened on this world for millions of years.
如果你真係認為大峽谷有數千萬年嘅歷史，呢個主流科學家嘅觀點，咁亦都即係話我哋地球上有數千萬年嘅歲月係冇發生過任何嘅地質活動。
Let me complete that point.
讓我總結一下。
There is the surface today.
今日嘅地球表面就係咁嘅。
Underneath it are flat lines.
下面係平順嘅間隔面。
What should be underneath is that.
下面睇到嘅應該係有侵蝕嘅間隔層。
Because if you don't see that, then it never rained, there was no wind, there was nothing on planet Earth for millions of years.
如果你冇睇到咁樣嘅間隔面，係代表依數千萬年嚟冇落過雨、冇陽光照、冇風，亦都冇任何地質活動。
So where did all those flat layers come from?
所以點解呢啲嘅平整嘅岩層係形成到？
If you look at sediment today in a floodplain, you see them all flat.
如果你研究今日嘅沖積平原嘅話，你可以睇到大部分都係平嘅。
So if you're going to see them all over the planet in the same characteristic, then the flood that created them had to be unbelievably large.
如果你能夠去到世界各地去睇呢啲平坦嘅岩層，佢平積嘅沉積作用，亦都係說明咗形成呢啲嘅沉積嗰個嘅洪水一定係非常巨大嘅。
In fact, then, what we're saying is that landscape is all of the sediment deposited during Noah's flood.
咁樣嘅話，亦都可以說明呢個地質現象就係由挪亞洪水嘅時候形成嘅。
And then people say, of course, and I'm sure you've been asked the question, so when did that flood occur and when did all those dinosaurs die?
跟住有人就可能會問，到底呢個洪水係咩時候發生㗎？恐龍又係點樣死嘅呢？
How old are the dinosaurs?
到底恐龍有幾老？
Well, this is the biggest shock in science in the last 10 to 15 years.
呢個係最近10到15年間令科學家最為震驚嘅事。
We have taken the dinosaur bones and cut them.
我哋揾到一啲恐龍骨，然後將佢切開。
And the scientist who did so, Dr. Mary Schweitzer, if that's how you say it, found inside the dinosaur bones soft tissue.
進行呢個工作研究嘅科學家係瑪麗斯韋察博士，佢就喺恐龍骨裏面發現軟組織。
She also found red blood cells.
並且亦都發現咗一啲紅血球細胞。
Do you think she was shocked by that?
你覺得佢會唔會感到好驚訝啊？
Would red blood cells last 100 million years in a bone?
紅血球細胞能夠保存到1000萬年？
She said the soft tissue was shocking.
佢話呢啲嘅軟組織令到佢好震驚。
Totally shocking, she said, because it's impossible.
係非常震驚，因為呢啲嘢冇可能發生嘅。
If a dinosaur is 100 million years old, you cannot have flesh and tissue and intact as it was with blood vessels.
假如恐龍已經死咗1000萬年，骨頭裏面係唔可能有軟組織同埋紅血球細胞。
At first, she didn't believe it. She said that's not possible. The bones are 65 million years old.
起初嘅時候，佢完全冇辦法相信，因為呢個6500萬年前嘅恐龍骨裏面嘅紅血球細胞點樣可以活落嚟？
But she made a very famous statement. She said, there are two alternatives. Either the dinosaurs aren't so old, or we don't know how this blood gets preserved.
佢講咗一句好出名嘅講法，就係話我哋得兩個解釋。第一，恐龍骨可能就唔係我哋想象中咁老；第二，可能我哋根本唔知道呢啲係點樣保存落嚟嘅。
And the scientists are working very hard to try and prove that blood can last 100 million years.
而家嘅科學家就好努力咁去證明一啲紅血球細胞係能夠保存到1000萬年嘅。
So what does that say about the bones in the fossilized bones? Is that they're not 100 million years old. In fact, they should be 6,000 years or less.
發現呢啲嘅軟組織同埋紅血球細胞講明咗啲乜嘢呢？就係證明呢啲嘅骨頭冇可能咁老，不過係6000幾年左右嘅時間嘅啫。
And one final thing about dinosaurs
有關恐龍，我想再講多少少。
is that the scientists tell us that one dinosaur led to another dinosaur, and that dinosaur created another dinosaur.
科學家話俾我哋知道，我哋由一種嘅恐龍去到進化成為另一種，由另一種再進化另一種。
And there's a diagram published by a scientist who has been quite honest.
呢一張圖表係一個比較誠實嘅科學家發表嘅。
The scientist said that this dinosaur might link in with this dinosaur and come from this dinosaur.
呢個科學家話呢個恐龍好可能就係同呢一隻恐龍有聯繫，然之後聯繫到下邊呢一隻恐龍。
And the scientist was honest by saying, I know this because I have a fossil.
呢個科學家都非常咁誠實，呢啲實線係代表佢已經揾到化石嘅。
But these ones, I don't have a fossil.
呢啲嘅虛線就代表佢未揾到化石嘅。
So what we did was we coloured in what he didn't know.
我哋而家就嘗試將嗰啲我哋未揾到化石嘅用紅色線代表。
And so the black is known.
所以黑色嘅係已經揾到。
The red and blue are not known.
紅色同埋藍色嘅係唔確定嘅。
Let's take away all that is not known.
我哋首先將嗰啲唔確定嘅清除。
Not one dinosaur led to another dinosaur, led to another dinosaur. There is no scientific proof of evolution.
咁樣係冇證據去證明一種恐龍係由另一種嘅恐龍進化而嚟嘅。呢個進化理論係冇任何科學證據支持。
So I'm going to summarize those results because I did talk about a lot of different things.
而家首先讓我將呢啲嘅意見總結。我哋頭先討論咗好多唔同嘅話題。
So dinosaurs lived mainly in swamps.
恐龍主要生活喺濕地。
Most of them were herbivores eating plants.
佢哋大部分都係食草嘅動物。
Not chasing our four-wheel drives.
唔會追住我哋架越野車。
They were fossilized in a global flood.
佢哋喺一個全球性嘅洪水裏面被石化。
And according to the scientists these days, They must have died a few thousand years ago.
根據科學家嘅發現嘅化石證明，佢哋只係幾千年前死亡。
So what does that mean to you and me?
所以呢個結論同我哋有咩關啊？
As Christians, we know that dinosaurs are talked about in the Bible.
作為基督徒，我哋知道聖經裏面確實有記載過恐龍，
They did get on the ark,
佢哋係有上方舟，
and we lived with them.
而人類亦都曾經同佢哋一齊生活過。
The one point I left off is we also ate them.
有一點我哋冇提到嘅就係我哋可能亦都曾經食過恐龍嘅。
That is what we know today.
呢個係我哋今日所知道嘅。
There was not many. They were spread over vast areas. They lived in swamps. We did put them on the ark. We did live with them. And they died a few thousand years ago.
就係佢哋確實數量唔多，並且佢哋生活喺好廣闊嘅地方，非常罕有，分佈好廣，而佢哋最後亦都係上過方舟，而人類的確有一段時間係同恐龍一齊生活過，而最後佢哋係俾人類追殺而死亡嘅。
So if tonight you're in this room because you are a Christian, there's a very important point about dinosaurs.
如果在座各位係基督徒嘅話，仲有一件關於恐龍而好重要嘅事，請大家記住。
And is this talk important? Yes.
呢個講座重要嗎？好重要。
Because dinosaurs were a part of creation.
因為恐龍係創造嘅一部分。
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
起初神創造天地。
Two very important things about that.
有兩個好重要嘅信息喺呢度。
How many gods do we have?
有幾多位神㗎？
Raise a finger. Tell me. 1, 2.
舉起手話俾我知。
One God.
一個神。
Is that like most other religions?
呢一點同其他宗教似唔似啊？
No. Most religions, particularly around Israel, whether they were Egyptian or Mesopotamian, they had many gods.
一啲都唔似。特別喺中東以色列附近嘅國家，例如呢個埃及、米索不達米亞等等，佢哋嘅宗教裏面都係有好多神嘅。
And Genesis 1:1 says that God created the heaven and the earth.
但創世記1章1節裏面講到起初神創造天地。
Most other religions say that the earth and heavens were created by themselves.
好多其他宗教都指天同地係自己咁樣形成嘅。
So it's extremely important for us to understand that Genesis 1:1 is one of the most important passages in the Bible.
對我哋嚟講非常重要嘅一點就係明白到創世記1章第1節就係聖經裏面最重要嘅一節經文，我哋有一位神
who created heaven and earth.
佢創造天地。
What does that mean for us as Christians?
對於我哋基督徒嚟講，呢句說話咩意思啊？
This is what the Bible says.
呢個就係聖經嘅教導。
Is that we had a Garden of Eden. Very nice.
我哋有一個伊甸園係非常靚嘅。
But what happened is we sinned.
但係後來人犯咗罪喎。
And not only did we suffer sickness and illness and disease and suffering and die, so too did the dinosaurs.
唔單止為人類帶嚟死亡、疾病、痛苦、苦難等等，恐龍都係因為咁開始咗死亡。
But if you believe that the dinosaurs lived before us millions of years,
但係如果你相信恐龍係生活喺人類之前好幾百萬年，
then you believed that we were created from them.
咁你係相信我哋係從佢哋而嚟嘅。
And here is the problem with this thought.
呢度係一個問題啊，關於個觀點。
It means that death and disease and suffering created us.
咁係表示緊有死亡、疾病同埋苦難創造咗人類。
When I should feel, in a sense, sorrowful and unhappy that I am a product of sin,
我哋本來係應該為到我哋自己犯罪帶嚟嘅呢啲後果感到悲哀。
Evolution teaches me that no, death and suffering and illness made me who I am.
進化論卻教我哋唔應該有呢種嘅感覺，相反應該咧覺得死亡、疾病、苦難係創造咗我哋嘅。
So I can be proud that I am the greatest thing created if I believe in evolution.
所以如果我哋相信進化論嘅話，我哋應該自豪我哋係進化論最高嘅產物。
That did not happen.
事實呢啲嘢並冇發生過。
They're saying that disease and suffering and death with dinosaurs created Adam and Eve.
佢哋話呢啲嘅疾病、苦難、死亡，甚至乎恐龍創造咗亞當同夏娃。
So here's an important question. If sin and death and suffering was what the dinosaurs did, and we did not,
所以呢個係一個好重要嘅問題。如果呢啲苦難、死亡、犯罪係恐龍帶嚟嘅後果，咁就唔係我哋犯罪帶嚟嘅後果。
if that is true,
如果呢個係真嘅話，
you don't need Christ.
你唔需要耶穌基督，
You don't need to be forgiven.
你唔需要被赦免，
You don't need salvation
你唔需要救恩，
because you didn't sin.
因為你都冇犯過罪。
That's why it's very important that we keep studying science, dinosaurs, and all these sorts of things to get the truth about these dinosaurs, and they live with us, not what scientists from the past believe.
所以點解我哋咁重要、咁着意，我哋不斷去強調恐龍嘅真相，強調恐龍曾經同人一齊生活過，因為呢啲嘅資料好重要，並且個真相並唔係好似之前嘅科學家所講咁。
And that's my final point.
而家係我最後一點，
Is that if you don't believe in Genesis,
如果你唔相信創世記嘅話，
if you don't believe in the flood,
如果你唔相信普世大洪水，
if you don't believe that we sinned,
如果你唔相信人類曾經犯罪，
then we don't need Jesus Christ.
咁我哋根本唔需要耶穌。
But the Bible says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth.
但係聖經第一章第一節就話俾我哋知道，起初神創造天地，
And Genesis also spelt out that ultimately Christ would come.
而且創世記裏面亦都記載到，最終有一日基督會再嚟，
And he would come to save us.
佢會嚟拯救我哋。
This whole study of dinosaurs is a part of a more fascinating study that the Lord loves us beyond imagination. And despite all the suffering and pain we've been through and other species like dinosaurs, that is not the end.
雖然我哋犯過咁多嘅罪，忍受咁多嘅苦難，我哋呢一個關於恐龍嘅學習，最後亦都翻到一個終點，就係基督仍然愛我哋，佢仍然會為我哋再翻嚟。
And I personally look forward to that day when that transition occurs.
我個人嚟講係非常盼望可以將來有呢一日，整個世界被恢復。
And we actually are with Christ personally.
我哋每一個人都可以同基督面對面咁一齊。
So thank you very much.
所以感謝大家，
Thank you so much for the invitation here tonight. Thank you.
好多謝大家邀請我今晚嚟到呢度分享，多謝。